Hello, hello, hello. Come on in, come on in. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. While y'all coming on in, I will be multitasking as I always am. I'm trying to get some things, and it's actually based on the topics that we'll be talking about today. So, uh, it's about reconciling your books. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. Uh, Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. I'm trying to see what is going on. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I will give it like 10 more seconds. I'm just trying to get some things completed here. This one, that. Come on in. I want to talk to you about reconciling your books and the importance of it. Okay. So come on in, come on in, come on in. So I am Tracy L. Tate. I am the CEO of TLJ Professional Services, where we are about all things financial. And welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. Today we will be talking about reconciling your books and the importance of it. So I don't care if you are a sole prop, a LLC, a nonprofit, a C corp, a S corp. It does not matter. You need to reconcile your books. So I bring to you over 35 years experience in bookkeeping and accounting and tax preparation and other business services. Um, TLJ offers those same things: bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, other business services, including business formation and getting you loan ready. Okay. So I have a master's in business and accounting as well as public administration. So the importance of reconciling your books. Mistakes happen, right? So, and one thing that you should always be in your books is consistent. Okay. If you code Amazon for office supplies to office supplies, it should not then go to other expense, for example. Um, you want to have consistent records no matter what the expenses are. Okay. And it doesn't matter your business structure. You should always reconcile your books. What that means then is you should have some kind of accounting software, right? Those would be the books that you reconcile, is if you have an accounting software. If you're keeping track of your income and expenses in Excel, then your note as far as what that expense is for is vital. Okay. That's what creates consistency. So people that keep track of their books in Excel, for example, if you do all of your transactions through the bank, you could download your Excel file at the end of the year and classify everything. What you classify, you want to just be consistent, okay? And you want to be able to prove it in case of audit. So everything we do, we always want to be audit ready, okay? Because audits are random in a lot of cases. Some things may trigger an audit, maybe something just doesn't look right. But as long as you have all of your documents and your backup and your books are in order, then you will pass the audit. It's one of those things where you might can't prevent it, but you can be prepared for it. Okay. So reconcile your books. And what that means is not just your bank reconciliation. You want to also reconcile each individual line item. Okay, so if you're using like QuickBooks, for example, you have what's called a chart of accounts. Your chart of accounts are your different income accounts and your different expense accounts, right? Your asset accounts, your liability accounts. Um, but you want to reconcile those, if not every single month, then at least quarterly, because where you code your expenses matter. Um, Based on different tax laws, some items may or may not be deductible under a certain expense type. Okay. So you want to be mindful of that, or it could be limited, it could be 50%. So meals, for example, that's a common one that people think that okay, you could deduct 100%, but in most cases, you can only deduct 50%. So if you misclassify a meeting, let's say a business meeting, as a meal, you're only getting credit for 50% of it, where you could have written that off for a whole 100%. Okay, so it's things like that. So that's the importance too of having a bookkeeper. If you are not savvy with, like, I can't even say math, because bookkeeping and accounting is way more than just doing the math, right? Um, be good at what you're good at, okay? Always say that. Always be good at what you're good at and outsource the rest. I understand, like, when you first get started, the affordability of it, then take some kind of classes, take something to at least know basic bookkeeping, um, to know the difference between the debit and the credit, to know the difference between income and expense, or asset versus liability, those type things. You may not be advanced enough to really know how to read a financial statement, but you should be, especially if you're in business. You need to learn how to read a financial statement, but you may not know metrics, for example, like industry averages, and how to um, leverage the information from your financial statement. So, financial statements tell a story, okay? So does your tax returns, okay? A person that's experienced in either or both can look at your documents and just tell a whole lot about your business. Your number speaks volumes. Okay. So part of your numbers speaking volume and your tax return, because your financial statements go directly on your tax return. So if your financial statements are wrong, guess what? So are your tax returns. Okay. So it's very important to have your books in order. It's important to have them reconciled, not just for to make sure that you're capturing everything from a deductibility standpoint, but when you're measuring costs, right? So, like, if you're a product based business, it costs you money to build your product or to have your product. Okay, even in drop shipping, it costs you something in order for you to mark it up and make some money. If you're not classifying those costs correctly, then you can also misquote or misprice your product, because you may think, oh, it only cost me $2.50. I can mark it up to seven. But if you had something misclassified, it was in the wrong category, and it actually cost you $5 to make that item, then you done lost $2.50 of your profit, right? So that's another example of the importance of reconciling your books, making sure each line item is in the right category, is in the right expense bucket, so that you can deduct things accordingly and appropriately. Okay. Um, Another thing about reconciling your books. So you definitely want to reconcile not just your account um, balances, but also your bank balances, right? So you want to reconcile your bank account as well as your GL account. Banks make mistakes. A lot of times, that's how you catch fraud. Some items could slip through if it's like something that's in the normal course of business, and they're used to seeing those type of transactions come through your bank account. They won't catch it, right? Or if somebody use or create a check that's in the right check sequence number, it doesn't really cause a red flag in that case. But by reconciling your bank, by reconciling your books, you'll know if something is out of order from month to month. And a lot of banks only give you so many days to dispute a transaction. If you miss that deadline, then that's a loss that you just have to take. Um, I have a client that happened to before she started working with us, and that was kind of like her red flag, and her kind of like that. enough is enough for her, that she didn't realize that there would have been a fraudulent check that come through her account months earlier. It had been 90 days, so she couldn't even recover the money. And that was over, that particular check was $4,000. She caught the $6,000 one. They were trying to put through a second check because that one cleared, right? That one got through. So they were trying to do another one, and that's kind of what threw up the red flag for her. Like, what is this $6,000 check? But then come to find out, a $4,000 check had already cleared the bank months earlier, and she didn't even know. So things like that. So it's very important to reconcile your books, but it's even more important to work with a professional, someone that knows how to reconcile your books, that knows how to keep track of your numbers. And then, really, what's important is looking at these numbers, looking at your books from month to month. So you can reconcile all day long. If you're not reading your financial statements, you're really not taking advantage of opportunities to scale your business, to reduce costs in some areas. Like, I like to use cost of goods sold because a lot of the bars and restaurants that we work with, when we first start working with them, the way that they shop for their products to serve, it keeps their um, cost of goods sold percentage too high. It should be under or around 30%, ideally closer to 20 than 30, but it definitely should not be above 30, and definitely not close to 40, right? So that's almost half of your cost if it's about 40% of your revenues, okay? So it matters, like keeping your books, keeping your accounts reconciled, all of those things all tie hand in hand, um, for you to be able to know what your business worth is, know what your business is doing, um, learning what's working and learning what's not working, right? Because both of those are extremely important in making business decisions. Okay. So I want to say who I am again. We're about halfway through this live. So I am Tracy LT. I am the CEO of TLJ Professional Services. We are about all things financial. That is a registered trademark. Yay. But we bring to you over 35 years experience in bookkeeping, accounting, tax preparation, and other business services. So with that, I also have a master's in business and accounting as well as public administration. So on this live, I was talking about reconciling your books and the importance of reconciling your books. So it's not just your bank reconciliation, but also general ledger accounts. So a couple of examples I gave was cost of goods sold is a big one. So if you're looking at what it costs you to make a product and then looking at what you should sell it for, or you already have your prices set for what you're selling it for, you need to know how much it costs you to sell that item, right? So if you have things misclassified in your records and your bookkeeping, then you might misquote what you should be charging for that product. Because if you think you've only spent, say, $2.50 or even $3 for an item and you mark it up even to 10, but if it actually costs you 7, that cuts so far into your profits. What about your overhead expenses, right? So, and then that makes it that you didn't even mark it up 50%, right? So reconciling your books is extremely important, not just for it to tell a story about how your business is doing, but it's also how you're able to make those pivotal moves to see what's working in your business, what's not, and then making those changes to make sure that you're implementing strategies that's going to improve the outlook of your business, not hinder it, right? So, being in this profession for a very long time, I'm able to look at your financial statements and just tell, okay, based on this percentage, based on that percentage, you're overspending. Um, your profit margins are not profitable, right? You can't sustain like that. And your financial statements directly tie to your tax return. So both your tax return as well as your financial statements speak volume. It tells a story. Both of them independently tell a story, but what your tax return states is what your financial states as well, right? It's just in the tax return you may have um, some more information just based on what type of business you are and stuff like that. So, but your financial statements directly impact your tax return. Reconciling your books directly impact your financial statements, which impact your tax return, right? So it's a domino effect. If something is wrong in your books, then it's going to be wrong on your tax return, um, and therefore impact your tax liability, um, whether positive or negative, right? So one thing I mentioned earlier as well is you may run into an audit, right? Audits are random in some cases. Some things may trigger an audit, but you always want to be audit ready, right? Making sure that you have your paperwork in order, making sure that everything is classified correctly, that you could justify classifying something a certain way or deducting that expense on your financial statement, thus your tax return, right? So I just want to make sure that you guys were aware the importance of reconciling your books, not just monthly, but monthly, quarterly, and definitely annually. And this is that time of year where you really need to make sure that your books are in order so that your tax returns could be prepared accurately, and audit ready, right? Audit proof, I should say. Um, so if you have been preparing your taxes yourself all year long, please take advantage of our CFO review service, CFO review services.com. I think it is. I'm gonna try that. But you can take advantage of our CFO review service and make sure that your financials are the way that they're supposed to be. Um, it's just CFO review. Nope, it is review services. Make sure that your financials are what they're supposed to be so that you could you have the best tax return, and really could save you money in taxes, right? Based on what we find in your taxes, see how you've been doing. And it's definitely a way to make some vital business decisions. In some cases, it could be to let go of a division or a product because they're not really profitable, things like that. What it's costing you to profit, what your profit margins are, and all of that good stuff. So, if you have not already taken advantage of our CFO review services, um, if you've been doing your books all year and you want that look, please take advantage. I did put the link in the chat, so it's www.cforeviewservices.com, and take advantage of that opportunity for us to optimize your taxes for this tax season coming. It is not too late to put together the strategy for 2022 that can directly impact your 2023 and start this year off right on the right foot. So, with that being said, I am Tracy L. Tate. It has been my pleasure to bring you this Tax Tip Tuesday about reconciling your books and the importance of doing so. I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday on Tax Tip Tuesday. Next week, we'll probably be talking about your the type of business you are and how it impacts your tax deduction. So stay tuned for next week, Tax Tip Tuesday. I look forward to seeing you then. Be blessed.